Welcome back to Going to Ground, episode 99 of this current third season, and it's good to be with you for a couple more. My name's Andrew Rumsey, and I'm in another church, as you can see, in Wiltshire. This is the splendid St Mary the Virgin Bishop's Cannings. The bishopric being that of Salisbury, not Ramsbury, so this wasn't one of mine, so to speak, although is within my sea of responsibility. And 12th century, grade 1 listed, and with all kinds of fascinating features. Pevsner notes its unusual size and nobility, and that's probably because of the episcopal connection. And the striking feature, perhaps most of all, is that the chancel is as long as the nave behind me. So it's cruciform with a lofty spire reaching up from the centre. So it's like a mini cathedral, really, Bishop's Cannings Church. And here I am in the choir, and that means that if you were to celebrate communion, and I noticed that one would preside facing east with one's back to the congregation, you can see how far away, how far distant the congregation is. You would need a pretty hearty voice or a good PA system. And I know that services now are led from further down where I'm strolling in the nave, which makes perfect sense. And you can see the transepts, the crossbars of the cross, so to speak. One has the organ in. And what I especially wanted to show you was something I've never seen before. It's called a carol, and C-A-R-R-E-L-L, I think. And this is it. It might be a confessional chair. I'm just going to try and give you a good aspect on it. It's like a stall or pew, but a single box for just one person, and you can see that there's the image of a hand and some scrolls underneath. And the little guide booklet says that this presents a voluntary sermon on man's mortality and the vanity of human wishes. And reading the translation from this helpful card here, goodness me, it does make for a bleak sermon. Let me show you a bit more closely. This is thought to be 15th century, this painted panel at the back. And in Latin, therefore, the writing's in Latin, pre-Reformation, and I'll just translate a few of the inscriptions so that you could work your way down the fingers of your hand, and as a way of ordering your prayers. The little tiny scroll above the thumb there is, "Thou hast offended God." The thumb reads, "Thou knowest not how much, not how often." The first finger is, "Thy end is bitter, thy life is short." Are you enjoying the sermon so far? Thy end is bitter, thy life is short, thou hast come into the world with sin. And second finger, "Thou shalt carry nothing with thee but what thou hast done. Thy life thou canst not lengthen, thy death thou canst not escape, thou shalt die." And on the ring finger, "Thou knowest not whither thou shalt go, thou knowest not how thou shalt die, thou knowest not where thou shalt die. The hour of thy death is uncertain." Sense of mortality could be in the next 5 minutes. Do you see what I mean? It's constantly at hand. So I think this is about readiness for your own demise. And the little finger, fourth finger, is, "Thou shalt quickly be forgotten by thy friends. Thy heir will seldom do anything for thee. That's certainly true around the house, I might say. My heirs, actually, they're wonderful. They do a great deal around the house. Sorry to sound flippant. I know this is a solemn recitation here, and the final finger also has, he to whom thou leavest thy goods will seldom do anything for thee. And beyond the little fingertip, thy end is miserable. Goodness. What do you make of that? And then at the bottom, there is a scroll here. And I know there's some significance in the fact that they emanate from the beaks of birds. You can hear a bird outside the window as well as I speak to you. What does it say? Below the two scrolls issue from the beaks of a black and white cockerel, the birds symbolizing the Christian attributes of vigilance and watchfulness. Okay. So, and they say, thou shalt not be a happy man if abundance of wealth flows to thee. Thou shalt not always be here. Be mindful that thou shalt die. Wealth shall vanish. What thou hast here, another shall have. Thy body shall rot. What thou doest shall remain with thee. Remember thy latter end, and thou shalt not sin thereafter. An incredible reminder, and because that's so harsh to our ears, what a reminder of the way in which certainly medieval Christianity was for many centuries centered around a sense of our own mortality and sinfulness, and the need, therefore, to turn to eternal things. We've shed, it seems, or obscured, or we don't give the same emphasis, let us say, in most church life to that in these days. And the emphasis, I think rightly, is on the grace and the goodness of God, because while we are certainly sinners, and we are certainly mortal, and that reminder that wealth shall vanish and we shall be forgotten, really important one. Actually, our hope is not in our own abilities or worthiness. It is in the goodness of God and the grace of God, who loves us despite all of our flaws. And perhaps that is at heart what the hand of prayer in that carol seat is leading to. It just doesn't say it. But it's at the heart of the ministry of the church here in this benefice, I know. And this church is a testimony in wood and stone to the persistent hope of the Christian church. And I pray that some of that hope will be with you today on a very stormy and wet, blustery day in Wiltshire, with some pretty grim weather. Nevertheless, the future is bright. God bless you, friends, as you go to ground.